First, though, our guest joining us now is bravely opening up in the hope of helping others.
When she was just 21 years old, former model Lisa Phillips suffered years of abuse by convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, but buried her trauma so deeply that she didn't come to terms with what had happened until after his death. Lisa is now one of the leading voices speaking out on his abuse, and she's here with us this morning in the hope she will encourage more victims to come forward. Lisa, thank you for joining us this morning. Good morning.
It's an incredibly emotive subject, of course, and something you experienced firsthand, and we are talking about it regularly in the newspapers for all sorts of reasons. Just take us back to that period when you first met Jeffrey Epstein. How did you come into his orbit?
So I was in high school in Belgium, actually. My father was in the Air Force, worked at NATO. And so I just wanted to be a model like a lot of young girls in the 90s. And just started my career actually here in London, and then traveled around the world a little bit, South Africa and Greece, went to Los Angeles and Miami, and then I was ready for New York City.
Yeah.
So I moved there in late 1999. Yeah. It was with a great agency. And booked a really important job for a cover of a magazine and a spread. And so I flew with the crew down to Tortola. It's a little island next to St. John's, St. Thomas in that area. And one of the young girls said to me, we have a day off. Why don't we go to my friend's island nearby? And so, I just trusted her. And since I had some free time, I just went with her to the island, and that ended up being Jeffrey Epstein's island.
So Jeffrey Epstein sent a boat for you to bring you across. You were there with a friend that you were working on the shoot with. So nothing really made you feel as though, actually, no, I shouldn't do that.
No, nothing was out of the ordinary, not at all. I just thought this would be a great experience. She said he was her mentor, and she trusted him. And
yes.
So
did you have any understanding of who he was at the time?
No, nothing like that. No, I had never heard of him.
You'd never even heard of him?
No.
What was that experience going to that island like then?
Well, it was a beautiful island. And we played in the pool. I had noticed at the pool there was like an older gentleman and some younger girls. And then got cleaned up, went to dinner. And then at dinner is when we were, talking and hanging out, having some delicious seafood. And that's when I met Jeffrey Epstein. He walked up and greeted himself to me and sat down and focused his attention on me for a couple hours.
Yeah.
He already knew the other girls at the table, so he asked me a lot of questions about my childhood and where I grew up. And I had mentioned I moved to Oxford, England when I was 2 months old and spent my first few years of life here. And he thought that was very interesting.
And what were your initial perceptions of him? What was he like?
Charming.
Yeah.
Highly intelligent. And he was the type of person that got into your psyche and made you think about things, questions that most men don't ask you. So it was more of a mentorship, that's true.
Did he go on to say he could help you?
No, it was nothing like that. He was just asking me my ambitions.
Right.
And my goals and wanting to know more about me in that way and what I was into.
Okay.
Right.
So he had no reason at that point to suspect that he was going to be anything other than sort of generous and welcoming and engaging with you and potentially, I mean, as connected as he is, but it was at that point there was nothing suspicious about the whole thing.
No, I mean, I just went there really just to spend the day there. I wasn't thinking anything really about him. And he was very friendly. I could tell he had this mentorship with the other young girls as well, and they respected him and looked up to him. So I did feel that and felt very safe in his presence.
I think it was on that first visit as well, you claim that you saw Andrew Mountbatten Windsor on the island.
Well, he had asked me, after I told him that I'd lived in England, he said, would you like to meet a prince? And at that moment, this person walked up and greeted and said hello, and it was brief, and met a prince, and then he walked away.
Was that quite surreal? Were you aware who, he's no longer a prince, obviously, but were you aware who Prince Andrew was at the time?
Well, because I had lived in England, I was a small child.
Sure.
Of course, I was aware of the royal family, and the fact that he was prince was kind of exciting. Like, wow, I get to meet a prince. That's really exciting. But as he walked away, I didn't really think anything about it after that.
And was he there in the pool? When you said on that first day, when you were hanging out by the pool, was he there then?
Well, I recognized him as the gentleman that was in the pool with the other young girls.
Ah, I understand.
Well, one young girl in particular that he was frolicking with.
Right.
He has always strongly denied all the allegations that have been made against him, which is really clear that we say that, of course. When did your experience with Jeffrey Epstein, which up till this point had been nothing other than quite exciting, I'd imagine, when did that take a turn, Lisa?
So it took a turn on the island. So later that evening, there was a knock at the door, and one of the younger girls from earlier opened up the door and said that Jeffrey was ready for his massage, just like nonchalant, just like ready for his massage. And the other girl that brought me there knew what was going on. But I hadn't known. I was just like, what, massage? I don't know how to give a massage. And, but they told me, no, you have to. He's requesting that you give a massage. And so I just, I was on an island, so I didn't really think I, could say no. And the girl said, just go do the massage. So I went with her into his room, and there was an actual massage. It's when I saw now this man naked on a massage table, and proceeded to give him a massage with the other girl. And that massage turned into an assault.
What went through your mind at that point? Because exactly like you said, you find yourself, and I'm putting myself in, you find yourself in the middle of the ocean on an island, somewhere that you don't really know, and you don't know the ins and outs of it all. I would have been really quite frightened.
Well, I was frightened.
Yeah.
But I was just frozen.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to say or what to do. And it's an odd thing of how at ease he is and how nonchalant he is about everything. And he had spent hours, I felt like I had looked up to him and felt some type of connection to him. And then that happened. So I was very confused about why this was happening. And then the other girl wouldn't say too much.
Right.
And so, went to sleep that night, just wide awake, looking at the ceiling, like, what just happened here? Just wanting to get off that island.
Yeah.
The boat came the next day, and I, rushed as quick as I could, got on the boat, and we left.
Right. And then what happened next? When was your next dealing again with Epstein? Did you speak on the phone? What happened, and how did you try and process that?
Well, I didn't want anything to do with that man.
Right. Yep.
Went back to New York, continued on with my career. Now I have a different feeling about myself because, when you go through something like that, it's you put a lot of blame on yourself.
Of course.
So that started happening. And then his secretaries would call me profusely. They would call me almost every day, wanting me to go back and meet with him. And at the time, I didn't understand. I understand now.
Yeah.
But back then, I didn't understand why. And so maybe a few months passed, and then he called me. And that's when he said, I remember your big goal that you told me on the island, and that you wanted to become a model with a particular modeling agency. That was always my big dream. And he said, I know the owner, and I told her about you. And so I agreed. And I was thinking, okay, well, maybe he's not so bad. Maybe he's not a bad guy. Maybe he wants to make up for what he did to me. And so I agreed and went and met with this agency and signed on to this model agency.
Yeah.
Not knowing at the time,
That was part of his process. It was part of his grooming. It was part of his way of insidiously wheedling into your life again, even though you'd sort of been trying to keep him at arm's length.
Exactly.
Gosh, it's heartbreaking listening to you sort of talk this through. And I understand that actually it wasn't till after he died that you really started to appreciate just what you had been through and the assault you went through at his hands.
Yeah, it was very confusing back then. I didn't understand. It was hard to get out of his web. And now being with this agency that was also
Connected
in some ways, right? And so, something horrific had happened to one of my girlfriends, and so I confronted Jeffrey about it. And that was the end of speaking with him. We started thinking and talking amongst each other back then. This is 2003, 2004. And realizing this man is not who we thought he was. And now we know who he is. But we only had just the tip of the iceberg back then of just wondering, like, who is this person? And none of it made sense.
And to be honest, Lisa, I still feel as though we've got just the tip of the iceberg right now. I mean, you say that back then, but even now. And what would you like to see happen next? In a perfect world, how would you like to see the next few months, years play out?
I am still learning about this world, right? So I only spoke out in 2019, and it's been 6 years. And I spoke out because Virginia Guiffre, right? She was making some accusations, and I was remembering, oh, wait a second, that could possibly be the girl I saw on the island. And I believed her and her story because of things that I had witnessed or heard back then. So I just wanted to not talk about my story, but I just wanted to support her and other survivors, that this was a big thing that they were saying, but it was true. And many people in the public don't want to believe survivors. They want to victim blame, victim shame, and say they always want to look at the abusers, especially if they're well known, you know, as God. And no, they make mistakes, and sometimes they make very big, dark mistakes. So I wanted to support her and others.
You've got your podcast, which you're bringing those survivors together to share their stories. You've written a memoir as well.
In the process.
In the process of writing a memoir, which I'm sure will be really important for you, but also for those other people that have been through what you've experienced. Prince Andrew is no longer a prince. His titles have been taken away. He denies everything that happened. He denies all the accusations. But what did you make of that and what's happened to him over the last month here in the UK?
Well, unfortunately, Andrew was a big part of my story and why I started speaking out. The only reason why I started speaking out. I continue to support survivors. That's my whole mission right now. But hearing that made me very happy, and it made me very happy for Virginia. Because that's what she was fighting. She was fighting to let the people understand what she went through, how it's impacted her life, and how she's been caught up in the cycle of abuse.
Since she was a little girl.
Since she was a little girl and until the end, you know, domestic violence, so.
We did approach Andrew Mountbatten Windsor for a response on the allegations. We didn't hear back. He's always vigorously denied all the accusations against him. In a statement last month, he said that after discussions with the King, he had decided to give up his royal titles to put my duty to my family and country first. Lisa, do you think we'll ever see the Epstein files? What's in them?
In its entirety, no. But little by little, they're exposing a little more, and we're learning a little more, and they're connecting the dots. But I think there's a lot of darkness in those files, and they probably don't even know how to process it all. And they do need to protect the survivors. A lot of them were very young at the time. So I think it's a process of figuring out exactly how to trickle it out to the people. You know.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. You spoke so eloquently. Thank you very much. Very nice to meet you, and take care of yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. If you've been affected by anything we've been speaking about, you can find support and links for sexual abuse helplines on our
hello. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.